Get your pen and paper ready. It's time for another edition of The Flex. The absolute best fantasy football podcast in existence.
So I'll say this, not to say that I disagree, but...
I disagree.
Oh, my God.
Presented by Broadway Sports.
All right, Flexers ready?
You want JG playing in the background while you introduce us?
Yeah, why not? All right, we just all gone to crap tonight, but welcome into this week's edition of The Flex. Remember to head on over to YouTube and check out your Flex host live and on your screen. Subscribe and hit that notification bell while you're over there. Lots of great video content that you do not want to miss out on. Once again, this is The Flex, and you can find our show and more fantastic content on Broadway Sports at BroadwaySportsMedia.com. Head on over there and sign up for your free free trial.
The old free case of beer.
Well, I bring that up because there was some fantasy-related news that went out there, and it was the worst commercial spot. Worst commercial spot I've ever seen for something. I don't know. We'll get to your opinion in a second, JG, about it, but Gardner Minshew, you found it. You showed it to us. Walk us through that, whatever that was for Bud Light and Gardner Minshew.
So first of all, if you haven't heard, Bud Light is offering a promotion. If you draft Gardner Minshew, quarterback of the Jacksonville Jaguars, first overall, in your first round of your fantasy draft, and send a screenshot to Bud Light, you'll be entered to win a free case of Bud Light. But, I mean, that's like whatever, a free case of Bud Light. I mean, I would love a free case of Bud Light. Hello, Bud Light, sponsor us. But the real prize is if you win your fantasy league, Bud Light tastes like despair, as Zach aptly points out on his background. The thing is, if you win your fantasy league with Gardner Minshew as your starting quarterback, Bud Light will send you free beer for an entire football season. And here's how I feel about that. Now, aside from Gardner Minshew being a terrible commercial spokesman, even though he's like has a great look and he's like rad with his rad hair and his mustache and goatee and his sunglasses, and
Are we bringing Rad back?
I don't know.
Is that
Gardner
happening?
Minshew is a cool looking dude, but I expected my quarterback to be able to like read and like have more charisma. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I felt like Gardner Minshew was absolutely terrible as an actor in that commercial. And maybe he's not a good actor.
So you wouldn't cast him in your movie, is what you're saying? Like,
although I would cast him to play the cool dude because he's pretty cool looking. But anyway,
is he?
right.
Like, I don't get it.
All that aside, I take this as a personal challenge. As someone who claims to be good at fantasy football, if you are someone like that, if you don't think you can win your league with Gardner Minshew as your starting quarterback, then what are you doing? I mean, this is free beer, right? Like, to me, I'm going to draft Gardner Minshew, maybe not in the first round, put him in my starting lineup all year because, I mean, it's quarterbacks anyway. How unless he gets hurt
so you
again.
don't even have to draft him in your first round to win the full year, Bud Light?
I want to see something written up because the way I understood it from listening to you get one free case of beer if you draft him in the first round and send that screenshot. But then I think that you only way to qualify for the lifetime, the year of free beer is if you draft him first and then win your league with him.
Okay, well, even if you have to draft him first, I mean, do you guys remember that season when there were like 10 running backs drafted in the first round and like 5 of them all broke their knees in the first like month of the season or so? Okay, that's an exaggeration, but it was like
you've never won a championship, so maybe
this
is your route to you winning a championship.
That's a great point.
I have won plenty of championships.
I'm pretty sure you said you won 0 championships.
My main league of record that is my most competitive league, I am leading the league in most.
So you've won a lot of easy championships,
appearances.
is what you're saying.
Yes, like I win my family league almost every year. I've won some other leagues I did, my frat league. I've won some other leagues, but I've never won my main league.
So basically you can win the Big Ten of leagues. Like you're Ohio State and you can win because there's easy competition.
Right. He's playing the Sisters of the Poor, those type of schools.
Yeah.
Sure. Fine. I don't care if that's I'm going to be in one of those leagues doing my Gardner Minshew experiment, okay? And I'll go win the fucking league again.
Sponsor us, Bud Light.
Bud Light.
Look at all this great pub you're getting behind Zach.
Look at this.
My favorite beer.
This week, Zach?
What?
No speech, no infomercial?
No, I'm just going to let my my background display my feelings for Bud Light.
I love Bud Light.
Bud Light.
So
This is the face I make when I drink Bud Light. Smile.
And if you want to see that face, you need to subscribe to our YouTube.
Yeah.
Oh my goch! Wow.
If you don't subscribe to our YouTube, you're really missing out on some good graphic content. What you think that means? Hey, that's up to you. Tune in to find out.
You gotta stop doing that to the people on this show.
Okay. What are we doing today?
This in a little bit.
We're talking about handcuffs. Speaking of graphic content.
So, yes, we are talking about handcuffs tonight. We promised it last week. We're going to go through and look at the running back situations across the league, who you should probably pick up, who you need to stash, who you need to keep an eye on. Greenlaw, we never get to hear from you a whole lot. These other two idiots monopolize, just suffocate the wording on this show.
We're trying to monetize it, Bud Light.
So, Greenlaw, why don't you hit us up with the handcuff that you're looking for in the draft?
Sure. So a guy that I really like in the draft, especially if I'm going to draft the starter here, is Tony Pollard. He was really effective last year when they gave him the ball. And if there's an injury to Zeke, he seems like he's going to be the go-to running back to take all the carries. Plus he can play in the pass game as well.
I'm all in on that pick.
I like it. I mean, Tony Pollard in the PPR is going, just lost it, going in the 11th round, which I think for what you're going to be looking for in the 11th round of most drafts, I think that's an appropriate time to go ahead and grab a high-end handcuff. They're working him out at wide receiver and with the wide receivers as of today. I saw reports about that. So, in the PPR league, there could be a little bit of upside. He's like worth keeping around. He's not one of those handcuffs. You're just like, oh, well, I'm going to ditch him 3 weeks into the season because he ain't going to do anything. He's someone that you can roster the whole year.
Right. That's got to be encouraging for your thought process to get him, is if they are working on other positions, because maybe he can contribute when he's not a handcuff. And maybe if you were in a dire situation one week, and say you have other starters, but you need that extra spot in the flex maybe, and you go and pick him in.
Oh, I see that he does it for himself on time, but he can't do it for us.
He had thought ahead. He thought ahead multiple steps there.
Easy to do that when I can read my own mind, right?
Yeah, I'm not going to fault you for thinking
moving
ahead.
on to my point, if he's being worked out in receiver and he can contribute in other ways, especially in a PPR, that's definitely something to keep in mind. What's another running back that would maybe fit that criteria, where he's not just going to contribute as the number 2 back, but possibly could look around. JG could be used in other positions and may have some more value outside of just being a handcuff to a good situation.
Well, I'm glad you asked me that, because personally, when I look at handcuffs, I think there are 3 different types of handcuffs. There's the guy that you're talking about right now, who can contribute whether or not the starter gets hurt. There's the guy that's just going to be a bench stash that you hope get some value, but you also don't hope that, because morally it's a weird situation, because that means you're like hoping somebody gets hurt or loses their job, which is like, you're an asshole if you hope that. But then there's the guy that could be both. And I mean, the ideal handcuff is someone who could be both. So we mentioned Kareem Hunt last week. Speaking of being an asshole, Kareem Hunt kicks people. He's an asshole, but trying to win fantasy leagues here. We mentioned him last week.
Doubles at a kicker. We don't know.
Maybe doubles as your kicker if the Browns have some trouble there. But I think Kareem Hunt's a guy. We mentioned this last week. We incorrectly stated his ADP, and then some idiot, I don't know, read very wrong. But then, that we fixed it. We mentioned that he's going 66 overall right now, RB 28. So I don't know if he finishes as a RB top 30 running back without getting a run as the starter for a little bit in this season, but I do think he's a guy that they're probably going to play a lot. I think the Browns are going to want to run way more than they ran last year, bringing over Stefanski from the Vikings. And I just think that he could provide value. And if Nick Chubb does get hurt, then Kareem Hunt, you're starting him every week like he's an RB1. So that's the ideal handcuff. Somebody that you can put in your flex, as you mentioned already. But if the starter gets hurt, then you really have a chance to like win your league with that pick. So Kareem Hunt's my number 1 handcuff.
Zach, any follow-up thoughts on Kareem Hunt?
No, I mean, I think he will be a top 30 Just looking at first off the first 32 and then also the handcuffs, I just, I see that a lot of just starting running backs on this list that probably aren't going to get what he can do with the ball. He's one of those running backs that doesn't need the volume or touches to make an impact in a game and make an impact in fantasy football. He could take one reception or one touchdown, 50 yards for, or one reception or one carry for 50 yards and touchdown. Boom. There's you 11 points right there and you're done. I mean, that's pretty good. He was running back 19, even with Nick Chubb around towards the end of the year. I mean, he was trending that way. So to me, you get a full year Kareem Hunt, and like you said, in this offense, I think that it's for sure you can get the value of drafting him in the 6th round. I wouldn't personally do it. I'm just going to stay away from it.
I would do it if I drafted Nick Chubb, though.
Yeah, I would do it if I drafted Nick Chubb. Maybe not in the 6th. That's spending the 1st on the Nick Chubb and then the 6th on Kareem Hunt. That's two really high picks. But you would have to me, you have to start Kareem Hunt. You have to start both, right?
I don't know about that because, this is something that we started talking about a little bit before we recorded, but something I do want to bring up. When you're thinking about handcuffs is you have the top of the draft, your 1st and 2nd round picks, where if you miss on those picks, your roster could be really suffering if you don't find some gems throughout the draft, unless you have the insurance of having that handcuff. So if I spend a high pick on Nick Chubb, I'm targeting Kareem Hunt maybe a little higher than I even would normally because I want to make sure that I have that RB1 every week outside of his bye week, whether he gets hurt or not. And that is also something to consider when you're targeting someone like Saquon Barkley or, versus Alvin Kamara, who has a very clear backup who will get the touches, as opposed to Saquon Barkley, who is even his backup. Last year was Wayne Gallman, but they added Dion Lewis in the offseason, who Titans fans know better than anyone is gonna somehow get carries because he earns his coach's trust and then be terrible once he gets them. So that's maybe a reason to push Saquon Barkley down your draft board a little bit, is if he doesn't have a clear handcuff. And if he does get hurt, you lose your 1st round pick. Whereas if you take someone with a clear handcuff in the 1st round and then get that handcuff later, it's like insurance on your 1st round pick.
But you're getting it at a 6th round pick.
That's true. It's a high cost to pay.
That's a very high cost.
That might be a reason to avoid Nick Chubb more than it is to avoid Kareem Hunt, because you can, in that same range, you have Joe Mixon, who Giovanni Bernard is the clear backup to, that you might have a better chance at, or Kenyon Drake, where you have Chase Edmonds as the clear backup to. So sorry for stealing everybody's handcuffs. I'll just shut up now, but I just wanted to get that point out there, is that
you calm down there.
It's more about it's not just about the handcuff itself. It's about, wisely spending your 1st and 2nd round picks, because if those guys get hurt or bust, you're fucked.
Right. So the better value is being able to draft one of those RB1s high and then getting their direct handcuff very low in the draft. So we were talking about Tony Pollard in the 11th round. There's some other guys going in the 11th round. That's your ideal target, because you're not having to spend another pick on a possible starter on a guy who's going to probably ride your bench or be in a flex spot.
So because I forgot, and I'm really on my A game tonight, we were going to give a vote for Tony Pollard. And then now that we've covered Kareem Hunt, so let's go back real quick on Pollard. Are we yay or nay on Pollard?
Yay.
Yeah.
All right. So, Kareem Hunt, yay or nay?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm a yay on Kareem Hunt, but a nay on Nick Chubb.
Well, we're just talking about the handcuff. So
I'm huge on both. So give me an oh yeah, baby.
All right. So moving on, give us another name, Zach, someone to look out for out there.
I am going to kind of flip the script. Zack Moss is a handcuff you not only have to get, but if someone else drafts Devin Singletary, you need to get Zack Moss. Zack Moss is, when you look at, and Fantasy Pros has a great list of the 2020 handcuffs and everything, blah, blah, blah. Has them all listed. When you look at Zack Moss going in the 10th round, and Devin Singletary is going as high as he is, to me, Zack Moss has a real chance to probably run away with it from everything that you hear in training camp, everything you've seen on film from Zack Moss. And I was a big Zack Moss guy. coming out of
Share the same
college,
first name.
receipts are on Twitter. I talked about Zack Moss being a guy that could
I remember.
be Derrick Henry's backup and we not lose a step. He knows his own run scheme. He loves to run. Well, okay. There's a little big of a drop off between Derrick Henry and Darrington Evans, but not Derrick Henry.
Lewis in there.
Yeah. Anyway, to me, if you're looking for kind of like one of those running backs that you're going to be wondering, man, I really wish I would have drafted him and been able to keep him at a low round, it's Zack Moss. Zack Moss has the best chance, probably outside of maybe two other situations, which I'm going to say, to outscore his lead back, I guess, whoever he's handcuffed to.
The starter, which would be Singletary, which I'm not even 100% sure Singletary is going to open the season as a starter.
He may not. I'm kind of with you. Like right now, if you are starting your draft, we have my first draft is this Sunday.
Holy shit.
I am eyeing me some Zack Moss. Going ahead and getting him. I'm not going to hesitate taking him as a RB2.
Just to clarify, he's going right now 117, RB 41. Like that's a steal.
10th round is insane.
Yeah. Well, right here it says on this thing for PPR, he's going in the 10th round in PPR.
Yeah.
Which is just nuts to me.
Yeah.
I think if you guys go back to BroadwaySportsMedia.com and check out my AFC confidence ranks article or go back and listen to our AFC rank episode, I went into this whole thing about the goal line carries with Buffalo and why Josh Allen's not going to score 8 rushing touchdowns or 9 rushing touchdowns again like he has the past 2 years is because they brought in Zack Moss. They didn't have a goal line back that was effective or that they trusted. I mean, even if nothing else, Zack Moss has a good shot at 8 to 10 touchdowns this year just from being the new guy in this offense who hasn't failed at being the goal line back yet like Frank Gore and Devin Singletary did. So I think they don't see Devin Singletary as a 3-down back, and if they did, they wouldn't have spent a 3rd-round pick on Zack Moss. I'm all in on him. All in.
So, let me ask you this. If there's what we think might be a competition for the starting job, is it fair to call Zack Moss a handcuff?
I think it is fair right now.
Yeah.
But he's the exact type of handcuff I'm targeting because he's going double-digit rounds, and he's a guy who has a legitimate chance to provide value whether or not the starter gets hurt. So Zack Moss is going to be in my top 5 handcuff for sure.
And Singletary gets injured. So he's already shown that he can't stay healthy.
Guy.
Well,
so if you get Zack Moss, regardless of if you get Devin Singletary,
that's what I'm saying.
You're in a very good situation.
It's
a no-brainer
Singletary
to me. Yeah, this is like a no-brainer situation that you should be drafting Zack Moss.
Yep.
Yeah,
he's a medium floor, high ceiling guy in the 10th round. That's about as easy as a pick as you can get.
At a position where it's hard to identify late round talent. Yeah.
Yep.
So it sounds like we're all in on Zack.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I like Zach's better. Can we pull that for next episode?
Oh yeah.
It's on you, man. Let me know. So
I'm on it.
Do you want me to do it a little sexier? Oh yeah.
Thumbs down on the last 2, Zach. Oh yes.
As graphically as you can do it.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, moving on here, looking around, one situation that intrigues me as far as handcuffs, and I know we've talked about them in length in other podcasts, but the New England Patriots, who exactly is the handcuff there? And I know we don't want no part of that. Who's the starter? Exactly. So I mean, if you had to pick one guy, Greenlaw, who would you tab as the handcuff for the New England Patriots?
Well, probably whoever drafts someone from the New England Patriots, because you'll be dragged down into the bottom of your fantasy league. There's been a lot of hype about Damian Harris. And I mean, Sony Michel, I guess, is the lead back, but Damian Harris has gotten a lot of pub this offseason. I'm not taking one of them. That situation scares me a little bit. So buyer beware there.
Agreed. But James White is a value. In PPR leagues.
Damian Harris is the value because they're already talking about Damian Harris and they're talking about him pass catching, pass protecting. I mean, Damian Harris's value is like way down on the list. You're saying I'm not drafting James White. I'm not drafting Sony Michel. I'm not drafting Lamar Miller. If I'm crazy and stupid enough to draft a fucking New England Patriots running back. It's going to be Damian Harris. It's going to be in like the 15th round.
Yeah.
Yeah,
James
and
White is
I'm-
going in the 7th round too, which is way too high.
That is high.
Thank you.
That is
Oh,
high,
thank you.
but I mean, I think
Very confused.
if he
Very
if he that is very confused for James White. But if if he starts dropping, I mean, I'm not
won't.
drafting him. He's the
He won't.
only.
What's the
Patriot-
highest you would draft him at?
I'd have to have a pretty solid group of running backs. To be
Yeah,
honest,
and
so-
wouldn't
Yeah.
you rather have a Tony Pollard or
absolutely, or Latavius.
someone
I would
more-
rather have pretty much any of the
Lata-
handcuffs that
yeah,
are in my top
exactly.
10. Or Todio
Hey, would you
Gibson's
rather
going
have
after
Matt
him.
Breida or would you rather have James White?
Matt Breida.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I am not too bold, it sounds like we are very big on not just James White, but the New England Patriots running back situation.
Veto. Veto those motherfuckers.
Yeah.
All right. Looking around again, and I just want to still
Their
just
best running back is Cam Newton. Got him.
That's true.
okay. Moving on. Just to look at some other situations, and we'll get some more just straight out opinions for y'all to hopefully not steal. But I just want to also talk about the Washington football team, mostly because I want to mention that I can say the Washington football team and look at their situation there, the reports out of there. Who would you consider the handcuff there, especially with some of the buzz that and the big mega love that Antonio Gibson's getting?
Well,
I would love to take this
Carter
one
is-
over if I could.
Go
Can we
ahead.
just- Can I, before you take over, Zach, and I
Yeah.
will let you,
Yeah.
who's the starter? Is it Peyton
about
Barber or
to tell
Adrian
you.
Peterson? Okay.
It's neither.
Okay.
I'm telling you right now, your starter is going to be either Antonio Gibson or Bryce Love. And
wow.
and I know that's crazy. Maybe
Bryce
AP
Love.
gets the week 1 start or something, out of veterans, oh, attaboy,
Yeah,
whatever
until
the,
his legs fall
crazy
off.
veteran stuff it does. But Antonio Gibson is the only running back, first off, I really want, right?
Agreed.
Much like Zack Moss, huge fan. I went to the University of Memphis, full disclosure, watched a lot of Antonio Gibson. I like him more than I like Tony Pollard. But Antonio Gibson is the truth. They are putting him in every position. Think peak Percy Harvin, when Percy Harvin was just doing everything he could to score points, right? Except for without the migraines and all that. I mean, Antonio Gibson is legit. And he hasn't moved hardly anything. He was like a 13th round when I first started writing articles for Broadway Sports Media, BroadwaySportsMedia.com. You catch the 4th down decision. And he was like a 13th, 15th round pick, and he hasn't really moved that much, which is crazy because he is getting all the camp hype that you could ever want. The Terry McLaurin rookie year camp hype is now Antonio Gibson camp. And let me say this. I've read a lot of little Bryce love going on up there.
Mhm.
Everybody loves Love. And I think
That's a guy who would have been a high
Right.
ranked prospect coming out of college if he hadn't gone back and then totally shredded his knee. So that's
Yep.
an interesting point.
I am saying this right here with the love. I think Barber's the odd man out. I think if he's the one that's going to get cut out of all 4 of those guys, and I think AP will get some like courtesy carries because you got to have the respect of the veterans or whatever. I don't know. It's to me it sounds and looks like a mess. As like typically most Washington football team stuff does, but there is a clear path. And that is Antonio Gibson. And to me, Antonio Gibson's handcuff is Bryce Love. Skip over Adrian Peterson. Just act like he doesn't exist.
Yeah,
I mean, I totally agree about not drafting Peterson or Barber because I think they're just a waste of a pick. They're either, like you said, going to start the year as a starter and then lose their job, or, I mean, Peyton Barber may not make the team. That's an interesting point, I guess. What I think is interesting is that if you look at last year,
I thought that was a pretty good point.
if you just look at like pass attempts last year by team, the Redskins, Washington professional football.
Wow.
Well, last year
Well.
they were the Redskins.
Okay.
Last year they
Well,
were.
No, no.
Whatever.
I'm not talking about 2020. Okay, whatever.
Okay.
The Washington football team attempted like the 31st or 32nd. It'll be on the screen if you're watching on YouTube. Most pass attempts last year, whereas the Panthers were like top 5 most pass attempts team. I was listening to the Roto World Football podcast earlier this week, which is a great show. Not as good as ours.
Okay, let's hold up here. You just said that they did the 31st most pass attempts.
Yeah.
So shouldn't that be the second least pass attempts?
It could be. They're the same thing.
Well, if you scroll back to these episodes, that's what we spent.
No. You were calling the second least the 31st least. It wasn't a matter of using the wrong end of the math. It was a matter of the wrong.
No. I think 31st most sounds really weird.
I was listening to Coach's Corner the other day.
I'm out.
Yeah.
Well, what about the Coach's Corner?
You mentioned it. You mentioned it on an episode recently. Whatever. It doesn't matter.
Can you make it simple for me, because I don't know what the hell y'all are talking about? Can you just say if it's really hard or really easy?
They did not complete a lot a lot of passes.
They didn't attempt. They were on the lower end of pass attempts, where the Panthers, who have imported the head coach and offensive coordinator from Carolina into Washington, I think they're going to throw the ball a whole lot more this year. Now, the Roto World guys seem to think that those targets are going to go to Terry McLaurin as he takes over the DJ Moore role. I'm not so sure about that. Terry McLaurin's a very talented receiver.
He can't take all of them. He had them all last year.
Well, he only had like 95 or something targets like that. Again, it'll be on the screen.
I mean, that's pretty good.
Which is pretty good, but it wasn't 130. Imagine what Terry McLaurin would do with 40 more targets is, I think, a direct quote from Josh Norris. So sorry for just ripping that off the road.
Is that what DJ Moore had last year?
Yeah.
I need to be rethinking my DJ Moore love.
But I think it's more likely that Antonio Gibson is used in this role that DJ Moore had, because he was used close to the line of scrimmage, screens and quick slants and passes to get him the ball in space so he could utilize his yards after catch ability, which is more, I think, Antonio Gibson than it is. Now, Terry McLaurin's a talented receiver, but he's a great downfield receiver more than he is line of scrimmage yak kind of guy. So it is ADP right now. What's this guy going? Gibson, like 140 something?
He's in the 12th round right now.
141, RB 49, according to this Fantasy Pros list I'm looking at. I mean, for a guy who could end up being a starter on the team or a starter in your fantasy lineup, that is an insane steal.
I'm going to say something real quick.
He could be a league winner.
6'2", he's 6'2", 221 pounds. He's big, he's built, and I want to say something. We saw how this Carolina offense loved to use passing to running backs. Christian McCaffrey. I am not saying Antonio Gibson is Christian McCaffrey, but if you're looking for someone that is really, really cheap, that is going to end up being maybe near the Alvin Kamara. Remember, Alvin Kamara was drafted really cheap at one point. Yep. He was not a high round draft pick when he was at the Saints. This is the next guy like Alvin Kamara that's going to be drafted late, and you're going to see a lot of targets, especially in PPR. Don't overthink it.
I agree. I think it's like one of those situations where the hype could push you to the point where you're like, man, he's getting too hyped. I don't want to buy in.
But he's still not getting hyped.
There may be that one guy in your league that's like really in on him who drafts him in the 9th round or something.
Could be me.
But that should be you. Yeah. You should be that guy or gal or non-binary gender, whatever you identify as.
Thank you. I don't think 9th is too high either.
I'd like to move on from the Redskins.
Well, hold on. I want to hear what Greenlaw has to say.
Here's what I want to move on from the Washington football team. Sorry for my again.
You offended a lot of
Greenlaw's going to make a good point.
Hold on. Time out. We are done with this team that we talked about not drafting anyone from on one of our podcasts.
Two guys, McLaurin and Gibson.
The next topic for Greenlaw first. So let's move on. Greenlaw, let's look at another situation out there as far as handcuffs are concerned. And before we move on the handcuff situation in Washington, are we yay or nay?
Yay.
Well, we're yay on Antonio Gibson.
And none of the people who are whatever starters right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was a loud one because I had to turn up my playoff music for y'all. So moving on then, as we're looking around the league and to all these other names, just to look at, say, and keep it at home here with the Tennessee Titans. What are your feelings on Darrington Evans and what he could do for the Titans this year? And we'll start with Greenlaw.
I like it. I like Evans. He's going in the 20th round is what it says on Fantasy Pros right now, which is way too low.
Not around in most
That's not around unless you're drafting a 27 round draft like Zach's trying to set up. But
It's Dynasty League.
that's way too low. He's a draftable player. I think he's a guy. He's definitely the clear-cut guy if something, heaven forbid, would happen to. I'm not even going to say it. But if if the worst case scenario happened, he's the go-to guy. And I think he's going to see a lot of pass targets too. I think that they're going to use him like, I guess Matt LaFleur wanted to use Dion Lewis when he was, doing whatever he was doing with the offense, mismanaging it. But it's going to actually work this time because Darrington Evans is good and Dion Lewis is terrible.
Zach, let me ask you this on this situation, because if there's a situation where obviously we're not advocating or hoping that anything happens to Derrick Henry. So is this a guy, when you're talking about a handcuff, is this a guy that you could also use at some point in time if they're maybe spelling Henry for whatever reason late in the season, but also looking at how involved he could be in the offense in other aspects, depending on how he picks things up?
It would be a long shot, long play. So like if Derrick Henry never goes down, it's a long shot that you're going to see any kind of value from Darrington Evans. Because we just don't know how they're going to use him, what he knows or anything. So the long play is maybe that long shot turns into something good, starting week 8. But you're going to have to roster him the whole time.
Yeah.
And no disrespect to Darrington Evans. I like Darrington Evans. But just because I draft Derrick Henry, I'm not drafting Darrington Evans.
Really?
I would at that price.
100%.
I think I'm absolutely doing it.
Well, I mean, if I have the 20th round in a 12-team league.
But in the last round.
Go ahead, Greenlaw, sorry.
No, I was just saying in the last round, I would absolutely pick him up if he's still there, if I have Henry.
That's when I draft my kickers and defense.
Well, that's when I draft my guy. I want to hold on to it for week while I'm deciding, and then I pick up a kicker. Anyway, but again, I think to Zach's point there is that if he's not going to be even drafted, why waste a draft pick on him when you can kind of monitor the situation? Because he could just be hanging out there in free agents. Because he's not going to produce like some of the other guys, like, say, Gibson, if he really is the number 2 or those kind of things, then there's no reason to really ever play him. So there's no reason to have him on you need to take that chance and pick him up if something happens to Henry, in my opinion.
Well, the thing that would suck is if he gets injured and then you don't get Evans. If Henry gets injured.
Oh, well, yeah, but I think
and that's worst case scenario. And I'm trying to, mitigate any sort of risk with that. And I actually play in a league with a taxi squad. So you could draft Evans, put him on the taxi squad, and he wouldn't count against your roster until you needed him. Then you could bump him up, but you can only use that once. So that would be my taxi squad play, would be Darrington Evans, because I expect him to be relevant in the passing game, at least from a real football aspect, but maybe not, he's not going to be a guy you're plugging and playing in your lineup every week. So but he's someone I would want as insurance for sure.
Yeah, exactly. It's the insurance. It's the same thing I talked about earlier, where you don't want to waste your first round pick. Like, I think there are different strategies to fantasy football for sure. And some people prefer to spend their late round picks on like diamond in the roughs that could pop and become every week starters, which is a perfectly viable strategy. And some people like to insure, for lack of a better term, their first and second round picks. And I like to do a mix of both, but there are certain players where, like, if I draft Derrick Henry, 100% I'm drafting Darrington Evans, and he's sitting on my bench the whole fucking season. And if I have to waste a bench spot for the security of my RB1 position being 100% locked down, I will waste that bench spot.
But is Darrington Evans going to be an RB1 if Derrick Henry goes down?
I think there's a pretty good chance. Who the hell else is it going to be? Jeremy McNichols, who they signed today?
No, I just think they'll pass more. I think they'll adjust their offense.
More, but they could pass more and still have
be
a viable
RB2. And
maybe Jonnu Smith moves back to running back.
Yeah, for 3 carries in a game. I mean, he's not going to.
Maybe we trade for Marcus and we put him at running back.
Yeah,
he'll break. Don't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
I just don't know if the value is there to roster him for the long haul of a season.
That's the thing, though. There's no. I mean, 20th round. There's no value, or there's only value. There's no price really.
It's about
it depends on how deep your bench.
Spot. Yeah, the price is the roster spot.
To me, I play in a league where it's most of my leagues have small bench spots. So like
Yeah.
You know, I'm in leagues that draft like 16th, 15th round or 15 rounds. So like to me, that bench spot is very valuable. And now some people treat it like crap and would probably draft someone like Reggie Bonifon, you know, over Darrington Evans. Now I would draft Darrington Evans over Reggie Bonifon, but you know, I am looking for
Reggie
actual
Bonifon
people that
is.
I feel like he's the backup in Carolina Panthers, and he's subscribed to our YouTube channel.
Don't draft Reggie Bonifon.
But like to me, bench spots are valuable. So typically on my bench are wide receivers because I feel like those depth plays pan out a little bit better than running back depth plays.
Yeah. I mean, you can't. It's personal preference, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I personally would rather have Darrington Evans than like taking a chance on Antonio Brown coming back to the league or whatever. Like that's the same range you're looking at.
Oh,
so.
yeah. I mean, I wouldn't do that. Yeah. I mean, I would take Darrington Evans.
Sounds like we are a little split on whether we're in or out for definite handcuff. As far as I know, if you get Henry, that's a special situation. But as far as drafting a handcuff just to have him on your bench if you don't have Henry, and those are
not a chance.
No.
So I'm gonna be honest with you. Because I don't think he adds anything else.
Yeah. Well, we just said we wouldn't draft him.
So you're out on rostering him if you have Henry too. You're with Zach.
I think I am. I think I'm out on roster if you have Henry, because I think you can find other running backs that can be handcuffs and can also produce for your team in a pinch, especially if you put them in the flex. So, JG, I want to go to you on this next one because you and I have been talking about the Hard Knocks show on Sunday Night Roundtable Reviews Hard Knocks with Mr. Lebowski. It's a great show. Check that out as well. And really, you made a comment that there's been surprising amount or lack thereof, I should say, of Cam Akers. And for the Los Angeles Rams until this week, we finally saw him a little bit and he fumbled. Any concerns there for him? And when you're looking at that team and for Daryl Henderson, who had some pop last year as far as some pub and all that, but really kind of fell off. I mean, what are you looking at in that situation, especially when you're able to review it? The only real review of outside of the Titans you can really see right now for us here in this market.
Yeah, so we're looking at their current ADPs. You got Daryl Henderson going 118 overall. It's pretty low. Cam Akers 67 overall. It's pretty high. I mean, I liked Cam Akers as a prospect out of Florida State, you know, running behind like the worst offensive line in the country and churning out yards. And I do think, I mean, I'm pretty high on this Rams team overall compared to like whatever the national perspective of them is. I think they're going to be better than most people think. I think they're going to have a bounce back year on offense. But I'm worried about the running backs. Like, I'm probably not drafting Cam Akers or Daryl Henderson just because the roles are so up in the air. And like, there's been some hype that that the Rams want to create their own Mark Ingram, Alvin Kamara situation. Like, it takes a really good offense for that situation to like flourish and actually find success. Otherwise you're Deion Lewis and Derrick Henry with Matt LaFleur and you have the worst offense in the NFL, right? So, I mean, it was concerning to me that the only time he's been on Hard Knocks was a fumble, but also like the Rams have no control over the edit for Hard Knocks most likely. So like they probably don't even know how much Akers is being featured or not featured, but
actually they do have control. It's either the coach or the GM. Yeah,
they have a final sign off. Yeah. So they probably just check it to make sure there's no, like when they're showing the wide receiver coach talk to them that they're not revealing a scheme or something like that. But
what was the wide receiver coach doing?
He's pointing his laser pointer at the.
Gotcha. I'm pretty sure the Titans had the 27th best offense in the NFL too. So put that correction over your face.
I think it was 29th or 30th based on total yards per game. It'll be on the YouTube.
I want all of the stats on the page. So points per game, total yards, everything.
Those are the only two I'm going to do.
So
what else would work? Plays per game? Hell no.
Dang moon here, man. Jeez.
That's three stats.
Does anybody have anything else to contribute to the Cam Akers situation and Daryl Henderson out with the Rams?
I am not a believer in Daryl Henderson, and it pains me because that's like the third Memphis running back that we're talking about tonight.
Memphis River Tiger, and you're pooping
really,
all over him.
And really, when Daryl to me, Daryl Henderson was the best college one that I watched because, I mean, he was just so big and so bruising and he imposed his will. Maybe
Bud Light.
It could turn into a Derrick Henry renaissance here, but their offensive line is still not that good with LA. And to me, Cam Akers is just a better prospect. So I am still going to draft Cam Akers, probably roughly around his ADP, just for long-term keeper value and all that kind of stuff. But I'm not going to draft Daryl Henderson because I don't think anybody else. I know he has a 10th round ADP. If someone is really drafting Daryl Henderson in your league, they're just kind of stupid.
I'll tell you what's not stupid is light, simple, bold mango, which is what it says right here.
It's like if Brussels sprouts grew wings.
Mine just says light, simple, black cherry.
Wow.
Mine just says
yours needs to be bold.
Mine says
Bud
mighty
Light.
swell.
So it sounds like we are out, all the way out on Daryl Henderson.
We only have 30 more teams to go through.
let's start flying a little.
We're not going to go through them all, are we? Come on. There's not a whole lot.
That's what
That's what we promised.
We are.
So,
Graver said, yes, please.
Please.
all right. So here's what I do in the interest of time, because I think we're already over 40 minutes.
All
at this
right.
point.
Let me
I'm
name
close to half.
five. Sorry. Let me name 5 handcuffs that I am not
Oh,
drafting.
you take over the show.
Packers. Who even is it? Jamal or AJ Dillon? Don't
It's
know.
A.J.
Don't
Dillon.
care. Philadelphia Eagles. Who even is it? Boston Scott
Boston
or
Scott.
Corey Clement?
It's
Don't
Boston
want either one.
Scott. Ask Joe Tess.
New York Jets. Frank Gore or rookie LaMichael Pirine out of Florida? Don't want either one. Who cares? Or the Jets. Jacksonville. Raquel Armstead or Chris Thompson? Now, Chris Thompson and Jay Gruden reunion, maybe, but hell no. The Jags, are you kidding me?
Can you give a
Pittsburgh
medium
Steelers.
sound effect for that one?
Yeah.
There it is.
Okay.
Just clip that.
Where are we at? We're at number 4.
That was 4. Number 5,
Okay.
Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, this is an interesting one to me because James Conner, injury-prone motherfucker. But who's his backup? Benny Snell, Jalen Samuels, Anthony McFarland? Who the hell knows? I don't want any of them. No, thank you. That's 5 teams we don't have to talk about. Done.
Well, do we have to talk about the Bears? Because they suck.
Bears?
Yes,
Tariq Cohen?
they suck.
Tariq
Well,
Cohen?
Okay.
Tariq Cohen might be the starter.
May-
David Montgomery
Is
got
my
carted
mic
off
working?
today.
My mic may not be working because I've said they suck 2 times and they still suck. They always suck. Don't draft anything from the Bears because they're going to be your last place team in the NFL.
Okay.
We can't hear you, Zach.
Yeah, what do you say? I think you're on mute.
There's too much Bud Light going on behind you. Brussels sprouts. I just read that. So what I want to do now, since we did promise we'd go through all of them, I guess, and we've gone through a ton. I don't want to double up. So let's just go down the list here alphabetically.
Let's do
Start with the Arizona Cardinals. And what I want to do, just to be clear, is I want just a pass or fail when I mention the name. And if anybody has a good point to make about that person, or we wanted to get into a little bit, just a little bit, we can stop. But let's try to go
just
through
a little bit.
just a little
What
bit.
if we have a great point? You said good, but what if we have a great point?
Good to great.
I'll give you 10 more seconds than I would have.
Okay, perfect.
So Arizona Cardinals, Kenyon Drake, the projected starter with Chase Edmonds as the handcuff going in the 14th round or around there currently.
Up on both. Chase Edmonds is in the 14th round.
Give them
I mean,
both
what else
to
do you
me.
need?
Amen.
Yep,
For sure,
I'll take
no
them
question.
both also.
All right, perfect. So the Atlanta Falcons.
That's an oh yeah. You got to hit the oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Thought I did.
There it is.
We turned it up a little bit so we can
Oh,
hear.
yeah.
Nice.
Correct. Hey, correction if I didn't hit the first time. All right. So for me on that.
That's not
Oh, you didn't.
debatable.
Moving on to the Falcons. Todd Gurley's projected starter with Ito Smith.
Don't even worry about that handcuff. Ito who? Brian Hill? Who gives a shit?
I mean, this is an interesting situation
No.
only because
No,
Todd
no.
Gurley's
you
going
making
to
it
get hurt.
interesting? There is no reason to make this an interesting situation because it's not an
It's-
interesting situation.
The reason
not a
it's
good
interesting-
point or a great point out on
Yeah.
You don't know that. The reason it's interesting is that Todd Gurley will get hurt at some point this season. So
Yes, but
therefore
both
his backup
backups
will have
stink.
value. However, who is his backup? I don't know. I don't care. I'm not drafting.
I don't know.
Go
Who's
ahead.
BC Johnson? We may never know.
Hey, he's a guy that's actually having a great camp in
Baltimore
Minnesota.
Ravens. Mark Ingram, projected starter. J.K. Dobbins as the handcuff.
I'll throw this one
Love
to
it.
Zach.
If you want, today when this podcast is released, later today is an AFC North preview for fantasy football. And let me say something. Mark Ingram is the most underappreciated running back in fantasy football history. Pretty close. And let me say this, J.K. Dobbins, what you will see is that Mark Ingram will start out hot, and then he will dip, and then J.K. Dobbins will pick it up. If you have both, it will be a running back one across the board.
It's a really good point, something to look out for, because J.K. Dobbins was one of my favorite prospects coming out. He doesn't have the speed, top-end speed.
But he doesn't do
does
anything
everything
bad.
well.
He does all the little things well. He does everything really, really well at a high level. He's everything.
He's not elite. Maybe he's elite in like one or two things, but he is not bad in anything.
To quote a
really
resident Ohio State fan, where he says that every time I'm out on him as a prospect, he does something that changes my mind.
Yeah.
He's really good at dropping touchdown passes against Clemson, though.
Oh, yikes.
Ooh.
So where are we?
Good thing he doesn't have to play Clemson.
After all those
True.
points, where are we on J.K. Dobbins?
I'm in.
Yay.
Oh, and one's a 5th round running back and the other one's an 8th round running back. That's really good value to get both those players.
And you should
Unlike
get both.
what we were
You should
talking
get
about
both.
earlier
Yeah.
with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt.
Kareem Hunt.
Like,
Well, yeah.
Kareem
I
Hunt's
mean-
a good value, maybe.
If
But
you like,
those are good values.
if you are like in the 5th round, you don't have an RB2 yet. Mark Ingram is a tremendous RB2
Yeah.
value in the 5th round.
Correct.
Although you should have your RB2 by the 5th round, probably.
Yeah.
We have discussed the Buffalo Bills, and technically we've discussed the Panthers. I'm going to go ahead and
Yeah, the
because
Panthers, really
Bonifant
quick. You
round.
mentioned some guy I've never heard of, but Mike
Reggie
Davis is
Bonifant.
also there. And Mike Davis, Hookem, also not drafting.
All right. We talked about the Chicago Bears. Cincinnati Bengals, we touched on them with Joe Mixon and Giovanni Bernard, and a little bit in one of your rants, JG, but overall vote on Giovanni Bernard.
Major.
I think you have to.
I want both of these teams. I want both these players on every team this year. Like Joe Mixon is a must draft for me, and that makes Giovanni Bernard a must draft.
And Giovanni Bernard going in the 20th round is insane to me because every time I talk shit about someone drafting Giovanni Bernard, there are 2 or 3 weeks where he is an legit RB1.
Yep.
Yeah.
Keep talking them out after I draft him so I can keep reaping that benefit. We also talked about the Cleveland Browns, the Dallas Cowboys. One that is going to be a heartstring for Zach,
These next two.
the Denver Broncos. Melvin Gordon as the starter, who's had some injury issues, I think, in camp that I've read as well.
Yep.
And Phillip Lindsay as your handcuff.
Well, Melvin Gordon, he's got weak lungs or something. Like, grow up. I've been to Denver. I've walked around Denver. You can breathe. Like, this whole altitude thing, it's a myth. I believe it is a myth. I think all these they're excuses. And I'm out on Melvin Gordon, but I am in.
Send your complaints to Dr.
But now listen, I will not draft Phillip Lindsay, and I'm saying that as affirmation to remind myself that I will not do it. But Phillip Lindsay is a 1,000-yard rusher 2 years in a row with freaking competition that he shouldn't be having, and here comes more competition he shouldn't be having. Phillip Lindsay's a legit RB1 for any other team. But apparently the Denver Broncos are just dumb idiots constantly. And
So-
I will say this, up on Phillip Lindsay, down on Melvin Gordon.
The fact
So-
that Gordon is making $8 million a year for the next 2 years pretty much means the Broncos have to start him, or else that contract is a major failure. So that
I think it's like a fake start.
It just is a whole gross situation I don't want any part of.
Yeah,
There's
I'm out
so
on
many
both
other-
because it's so messy.
Yeah.
But Zach, I do like Bud Light's new slogan.
Thank
It's
you.
really good.
So that's a buzzer to Denver, but that's to Zach's Bud Light slogan.
Nice.
So moving on down here to another team, the Detroit Lions. We talked about DeAndre Swift. I had my big rant last week about what these coach speak terms that are coming out that he's not picking up. He's not quite what they thought, all those things. But as it stands, Kerryon Johnson is listed as the handcuff. And with all the doubt, I don't want to say all the doubt, but with some doubt or some lingering something coming around Swift, I mean, if Kerryon truly is the handcuff in that situation, where are we at on him?
No, this doesn't make sense. Carryon's a starter and DeAndre Swift is the handcuff.
But that's I don't think that's how the public views it. Like, I
Maybe.
view it the same way you do,
Yeah.
but I think the public views it the other way around. And let me say this. If Kerryon Johnson's there in the 9th or 10th round,
That's not
come
the
on
worst
up on the
pick.
team. I don't care if I have Swift or not. Just come on up, little fella.
Yeah. I'm not.
Maybe.
I'm probably not drafting a Lions running back, but
same.
But
I'm probably out on
Johnson's
both.
this fucking starter, though. This is ridiculous. When I write my handcuff article, DeAndre Swift will be listed as the handcuff. Just
Okay,
putting
so for
it
the
out.
So you're just ignoring ADP.
Is Swift going higher?
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want either one, so fuck it. But,
Brown's going
Yeah,
into
I'm
the
with
ninth
you.
round. All right,
Let's give him a.
fuck this guy.
All right. So Indianapolis. Oh, I skipped a few tapes. Good Lord. That's what I get for looking away and drinking some beer tonight. The Green Bay Packers, we talked
What
about.
kind of beer?
Jones.
And it's AJ Dillon. Like
Black cherry.
Justin said that he doesn't know who it's going to be. It's AJ Dillon. AJ
Well,
Dillon is number 2.
AJ Dillon or it's Jamal Williams.
No,
sometimes, too.
because there is another establishment that has already written an article based on Roto World blurbs that Jamal Williams is on the trading block. So let's trade for Jamal Williams or blah, blah, blah. I think Jamal Williams is out.
That doesn't mean he's on the trading block. Whatever.
Well,
Another Matt LaFleur
every
running
position
back
in
that
the
was
NFL is on the trading block, according to that source. Anyway.
Yeah, Derrick Henry was on the trading block when Matt LaFleur was here. So they. Just really
I will say this.
running backs.
I think it's AJ Dillon. I don't think it's Jamal Williams. And I'm drafting. Maybe you're drafting the handcuff of a handcuff, but eventually I think that AJ Dillon is going to be the guy. So why not draft him in the 14th round?
So
I would definitely draft Aaron Jones somewhere in the second round, expecting a huge regression from the 16 touchdowns he scored last year. But this is a interesting case where I'm probably not drafting a handcuff, because if Aaron Jones were to get hurt, I don't think it's going to be AJ Dillon or Jamal Williams as the guy. I think they're just both going to be playing a lot, and that kills both of their fantasy value.
Well, Jamal Williams will be in two-tone blue, so it really doesn't matter.
all right. So where are we at on this handcuff situation in Green Bay?
I'm a yes. I'm being
Overwhelming
outvoted.
majority. Overwhelming. Greenlaw's got 2 thumbs, and you only have
Hold on.
one.
I was about to hold on. I was say I get a vote in this too, right? But I'm down on it. So let's go to
That's 4-1.
Let's go to Johnson & Johnson in the Houston Texans situation with David Johnson.
BC?
No, David Johnson.
Oh.
And then Duke Johnson is the backup.
I'm drafting both so I can name my team Johnson & Johnson, but otherwise I'm not drafting either.
Okay.
2 Johnsons, 1 cup.
All right, let's make it 4 Johnsons. I'm drafting Deontay and BC too. Let's get it on, baby.
Johnson & Johnson, Johnson & Johnson.
I mean, David Johnson, I think, is
name
getting
your team
drafted too
Sausage
low.
Fest at that point.
Yeah, there you go. Sausage Fest is great. I think David Johnson is going too low. And we saw what Carlos Hyde did last year in this offense. He's going to do better. I mean, he's better than Carlos Hyde. I know there's doubters and all that. Carlos Hyde's not that good. He's the 3rd string running back up in Seattle right now.
Second.
Maybe he could be second. But I'm going David Johnson. But am I going to necessarily draft Duke Johnson? Even if David Johnson goes down, it's the 3rd guy. Whoever the 3rd guy is going to be it. Duke Johnson is not. And I went into this. I somewhat dropped David Johnson, one of my leagues. I picked him up and just trying to trade him, as a joke. But someone's like, "Well, did Duke Johnson die?" When I said there's no competition behind him. Well, Duke Johnson's not a 3-down running back. Like, where have you been?
He could be.
Duke Johnson.
Their actions tell you they don't think of him that way.
Exactly.
They had
Nobody
him.
does.
They got
You have like
Carlos Hyde, they had
several
him, they got
coaching
David Johnson.
regimes. Right.
I
I mean,
mean,
like
look,
Greenlaw's right. Several
Sim-
coaching regimes have said that Duke Johnson is not a 3-down running back.
Cleveland as well. I mean, when he came into the league, there was a
that's
lot
right.
of people on draft Twitter who were like, Duke Johnson's really good. Duke Johnson. And then when he first started playing Cleveland, it was like, why isn't Duke Johnson getting the ball more? And then when he got traded to Houston, all these people on draft Twitter, why isn't Duke Johnson getting the ball more? Well, there's some reason he's not getting the ball more. Like,
maybe it is a Kenyon Drake thing, but the thing is that Bill O'Brien doesn't think he's a 3-down running back, and that's all that matters.
The difference between, and that's where he is currently, the difference between the Kenyon Drake thing is he goes to another team and starts automatically producing.
Right.
So you can go to another team and still do the same thing he did with the other team. So that tells me that
he's he's Tariq Cohen. If Tariq Cohen goes to another team, he's not suddenly going to be Kenyon Drake. Like, I mean,
No,
he's going to be Tariq Cohen. Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and vote on this
I'm
one.
out on Duke.
Yeah.
Okay. Indianapolis Colts, Jonathan Taylor, projected starter, Marlon Mack as the handcuff.
Yes.
Backwards.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
It's backwards. This
Marlon
is
Mack.
not-
Yeah. Obviously.
Yeah,
This is not
that's
how
why
the
we're in
season
on
will
Marlon
start.
Mack.
I
It's
am
all
in on
because
Marlon Mack.
Jonathan
I
It's
Taylor.
all
never-
about ADP.
Yeah.
You would
It's
tell
all
me a
about
year
ADP,
ago
bud.
that I'd be in on Marlon Mack right now, and I would have
I
slapped
am
your
in
face.
on some Marlon Mack. And then
Yeah.
did you see that he ripped off runs of like 45 and 50 like a couple of days ago? Like 2 big runs. I'm all in on Marlon
everyone
Mack.
is
Ninth
in-
round.
It's crazy. Everyone is in the fantasy community is all in on Jonathan Taylor. Like, why? What have we seen from them
No.
that makes that you think that Jonathan Taylor is going to get all the care?
I'll tell you what,
Maybe
we
by
will
week
see.
10.
He's going to fumble away that job to Marlon Mack, and then you'll look like a genius.
Booyah. And also, Marlon Mack has a little bit of a fumbling problem, too. I
Well,
love to retweet
Come
my
on,
own
let's
tweet
not
of-
put that into the ether.
All right, so we're in on Marlon Mack just because we think that he will be the starter at some point in time. You're getting some great value if he sticks around that 9th round part. I'm going to skip this next team because
Gonna be the
F
starter.
the Jags. If
Yeah,
that's
the
okay with everyone.
Jags are
We're
thumbs
all
down.
out on
We already
him.
did the Jags. We're good.
Oh, maybe we did, maybe we didn't, but still, I'm out. I just want to get another shot in on the Jags. All right, so going to Kansas City Chiefs, one we did not talk about, and Clyde Edwards Edwards, as Justin Mello refers to apparently, and DeAndre Washington. I'm just going to predict, like, he's getting a lot of buzz, but he's a rookie. He's coming in, and he's getting a lot of buzz, but what happens if he doesn't produce?
Well,
Gonna go.
I'll just handle this really quickly. If you don't get Clyde Edwards-Helaire, there's no one else in the Chiefs backfield worth drafting
Yeah.
because who the hell knows who's getting any role?
Fair enough.
But
I
look
like
what they
that.
did last year. They just rotated everybody. There was no clear-cut person after LaShawn McCoy and who's the guy who just got hurt.
The other 3 running backs make 1 running back.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I think that they rotated running backs last year because they didn't have that true number 1 guy, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to get 80% of the running back snaps.
Oh,
Let's not
I've
even
already-
overthink this.
Yeah,
You
we
know,
all agree with that.
You know what my stance is. I promise if I get the first pick in the draft, I'll take him just because I've said it and I want to see what happens. I'm gambling on that and see what happens. I know that I don't think he's going to be necessarily a better, smarter play than CMC, but dang it, I believe in him and I think that's going to be a big pickup and I don't want to risk not getting him. And when I think
It's
he's
going to be a good pick.
He will be.
So it's one of the situations where maybe the draft position doesn't match up, but I'm winning games. I don't care. So moving on down from the Chiefs to the Chargers, I meant to pick them up with the Hard Knocks as well, and I kind of skipped over them, but just Austin Eckler and Justin Jackson going on there. What are we feeling on Justin Jackson just real quick?
Justin Jackson's not the handcuff. Joshua Kelly is. If you want to win smart and know that Austin Eckler maybe goes down, Justin Jackson's getting the first team reps, but he ain't doing shit with them because he's not very good.
Yeah, I'm not
Go
in
Joshua
on either
Kelly.
of these. But I think that
Yeah,
the
I would
Chargers,
say no.
The Chargers backfield is a mess. I had a brief moment where I was in on Eckler, but like when you look at all the stats about Phillip Rivers targeting running backs compared to like Tyrod Taylor targeting running backs throughout his career, it's like everything Austin Eckler did was a product of Phillip Rivers. Not everything, but his fantasy value was a product of Phillip Rivers. I think he's a talented player. I'm not in on Eckler, and therefore, who needs a backup to him when you're not even in on the starter to begin with?
I do like Eckler, but the thing about Jackson and who'd you say the backup is?
Joshua Kelly.
Joshua
UCLA
Kelly.
rookie.
If you think Kelly's going to be the handcuff, you have time to figure that out because people are going to pick up Justin Jackson and then they're going to start him and he's going to fail and then you're still going to have time. It's not a Darrington Evans situation, in my opinion, where he's the direct number 2. He's the number 3 guy. And he's probably going to be until they prove otherwise.
Yeah, unless Joshua Kelly explodes onto the scene in some pass catching opportunities or something. When Austin Eckler goes down, everybody will be looking for Justin Jackson on the waiver.
Yep.
Nobody's going to be looking for Joshua
Exactly.
Kelly on the waiver. And that's when you let the waiver pass and get Joshua Kelly.
There was a situation
Which
like
is
this
a
last
strategy
year.
we have not talked about.
True. There was a situation last year where like everybody picked up one guy and the other guy ended up being the star. I wish I could remember what the hell it was.
Yep.
But yeah, that happens.
What
To
happened
one
a few
team every
years
year.
ago,
Correct.
the Washington
I gotta
football
remember
team
it.
did it when, oh crap. I don't know who it was, but someone went down and then Fat Rob Kelly came in and just took over for the Washington football team. And I actually, hold on.
This is a waste of time. Let's move on.
You can cut all this.
I'm not cutting for the YouTube. The YouTube, they get everything. And then the people on
It is a waste
podcast
of time,
form-
but I have an award for picking up Fat Rob Kelly and
We're
winning a
approaching
couple of
an
games
hour.
because of Fat Rob Kelly.
Okay. All right. Let's motor through these.
It's just an hour.
The Las Vegas Raiders, Josh Jacobs, the starter, Jalen Richard.
Jalen
Yes.
Richard. But let me tell you guys about a little guy named Lynn Bowden.
Well, didn't they pick up real quick? Didn't they pick up somebody else recently too?
Sure. Who cares? Lynn
They did,
Bowden.
but I don't
think you
remember who
posted
it was.
something.
Lynn Bowden was a
Don't try to
receiver
do
at
it.
Kentucky.
Give me the vote.
Who-
Give me the vote. Give me. Hey,
Yeah,
you're
okay.
gonna lose that.
Thumbs
Okay.
down.
Down.
Thumbs down. But keep your eye on Lynn Bowden.
All right. Vikings, Dalvin Cook, Alexander Madison.
Yes.
Yeah.
Draft.
in on him.
You have to.
Wait, you
Okay,
skipped
we
the
already covered
Dolphins.
Patriots.
You skipped the Dolphins.
No, we covered Breda earlier.
Well, we just said that Breda
Okay,
over
vote
someone
real quick.
else.
Vote real quick, Breda.
Breda's a
All
must
in.
draft, by the way.
Major value, could be the starting running back. Jordan Howard has never
Yeah,
been
just
New
good.
Orleans
skip Jordan
Saints,
Howard.
Alvin-
Skip Jordan Howard.
Yeah, but
Alvin
take Breida as
Kamara.
a flyer.
Latavius Murray as the handcuff.
Yeah,
You
mentioned
have to
this
have
already.
this handcuff.
definitely.
My number 2 handcuff. Yeah,
An
number
oldie
2
but a
guy.
goodie. An oldie but a not goodie. Excuse me. Deion Lewis is the handcuff to Saquon Barkley. I think we talked a little bit earlier about that. New York Jets. We talked about that.
That's you have to hold this up
Philadelphia
here.
Eagles. Miles Sanders and Boston Scott. I'm not even looking at you. All right.
Nope.
Anthony McFarland Jr. backing up James Conner.
Assuming that it's not
injured.
Benny Snell or someone
Benny
else.
Snell, backup running back in Pittsburgh, backing up the oft-injured James Conner in Pittsburgh.
Hell
Oh,
no.
on all
Avoided.
Steelers running backs.
It's one of those
Agreed.
things where you just wait till the waiver clears.
Yeah.
All right. Seattle Seahawks.
Oh,
Chris-
was it Seattle? Where everyone picked up Jalen Samuels and then it was like Benny Snell who was actually the guy? Maybe. I don't know.
Well,
Well, that's
He played
You just
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh.
research it
Steelers.
on your own time and put the correction on the YouTube. Thank you.
Whoa.
Nope, that correction will not be on the YouTube. Sorry, everyone. I'm not going to be able to
Hashtag
remember that one.
Snarky Ryan.
If you care that much.
I don't.
Seattle Seahawks, exactly. Chris Carson, Carlos Hyde.
Yes, Carlos Hyde is a
Yes.
value. Carlos Hyde could be a value.
Yeah.
I mean, 18th
yeah.
What do we
I'd
got?
go,
round.
yeah.
Okay.
If you're just
okay.
looking for a fucking flyer at the end of your
and
draft,
it's not
you
going to be
might as well.
Penny. We've seen enough of
Yeah.
Penny.
Tevin Coleman in San Francisco.
A same exact situation.
Yes.
10th round pick. He might end up being the starter.
Keyshawn Vaughn in Tampa Bay.
Hell no.
Yeah, I'm a little out on Keyshawn, and I was really in. I was out,
Same.
then in, then out.
Yeah.
Out.
I'm out. Zach's convinced me on Rojo.
Yeah,
And
Zach
that
has.
does it, boys. We covered the Titans and we also covered the Washington football team.
Nice.
Oh, that's everybody. That's all the
I
round.
just want to say that maybe I should be plugging, instead of Bud Light, which is 2020 in a can, I should be plugging trying to be Ronald Jones's agent, because I feel like I've done a really good job of promoting his brand.
Any handcuff stuff to round back on that we may have missed since we actually got this in an hour?
No, I think we're good. I was just going to ask for any final notes or any final thoughts. JG, I want to spend this time. Anything happening in the sports world that you'd like to speak on? I know that we're having fun here, but there's some interesting stuff going on. And I know that you had mentioned before the show, and I wanted to get your thoughts real quick because I think that you can speak on this probably more poignantly based on what you said earlier. And I want you to go through it again.
Well, I hope so. But I just want to say, I mean, we're 4 white guys here. So, like, what perspective do we even have? But the NBA boycotting their games, other sports, MLB, WNBA following suit, the MLS as well. I think that it's really cool to see these players understand their platform and actually start to do something. I mean, kneeling before the national anthem was a great start. Here's the way I see it. And sorry to get political, but you know, we're at an inflection point in our culture, and you can either be on the right side of history or the wrong side of history. And I'm sorry, but social injustice is a real thing. And if you've never experienced it in your life, that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, because, you know, I mean, anecdotally is not the best way to tell this issue. Just look at the stats. I mean, there are so many people suffering at the hands of social injustice from top to bottom, whether they're talking about police brutality. It doesn't stop there, though. I mean, our entire system is set up in such a bad way. So, sorry, I don't want to get too into that, but I just want to say I really support what the players are doing. You know, they started by kneeling during the anthem, and that riled some people up. It got attention. There are people out there who really don't like that, and I think most of those people don't understand where the kneeling is coming from, and I think that if they did take the time to understand. They would support it maybe a little bit more, or at least understand it if they didn't support it. But nothing happened, right? Legislatively, nothing happened. So they took the next step. They boycott. They didn't come. The Milwaukee Bucks obviously started. If you missed the story, you must be living under a rock. Milwaukee Bucks did not come out for the game against the Orlando Magic, game 6 that they probably would have, or game 5 that they probably would have won easily. They said, we're staying in the locker room as a protest, as a boycott of the Jacob Blake shooting that happened in Wisconsin, obviously Milwaukee, located in Wisconsin. And other teams followed suit. I think that is just a great escalation of saying, look, you didn't listen when we kneeled during the anthem. I mean, you got mad a little bit, but you didn't do anything. So we're taking it to another level. And if you don't listen this time, there's another level we can go to. You know, we don't have to finish the playoffs. We don't have to play basketball anymore. And I just think it's really great to see the players recognize their platform and how to use it. And this is how social change happens. I mean, I talked to my parents who obviously lived through the change of the 60s and 50s, 60s, and 70s, all the civil rights movements that I wasn't alive for. And when the George Floyd protests were first starting up, I talked to my dad and my mom about it, kind of expecting my old white parents to be like anti-protest, right? But they were very pro-protest, to my surprise. And they were even saying to me, like, this is nothing. You know, we lived through some real boycotts, some real protests. And that's how that's what it takes for change to happen. People have to be really uncomfortable. So that's my white perspective, which again, I mean, I don't have the perspective on this to really talk on it, but just from what I've seen, I do think that I just strongly support what the NBA players are doing. And we don't know where this is going to go yet. I mean, this just happened earlier today. We're recording on Wednesday night. So this could hopefully it will have a life beyond Wednesday where actual change happens. And one of the big things that these Milwaukee players were hoping for was the state of Wisconsin to convene as a government. They haven't convened in months because of, I don't know why, maybe it's COVID and they're like on leave or layaway or whatever. But that was one of the big points Milwaukee wanted, was like, we need our government to be a government again. So anyway, long political rant over, but if you guys want to comment, obviously go ahead, but that's how I feel about it. I'm fully supporting.
Yeah, I think to sum up there, if they're not listening when you're doing something peaceful, and they're not listening when you're talking calmly, and you go after somebody's wallets,
yep,
maybe that's the way they start listening. So thank you, JG. And in closing, that's going to do it for us this week. I apologize, Zach. I should have given you a chance to speak up if you wanted to. So
no, I mean, I think that everything that JG said is right. I mean, millennials suck. Like, I hate millennials, and I am technically a millennial, but I will not associate with any of them besides the ones on this podcast, because so far it's just been a lot of bark and no bite. And to me, it's just like, I was just talking to someone the other day and they were like, oh, well, my vote doesn't matter. Well, you have to remember that if you're thinking that way, then there's probably millions of people your age. Okay, maybe hundreds of thousands, but either way, tons of people your age thinking the same thing. And all it takes is all those people to say one different thing and to make change. And I think it's slowly going that way. And I commend, I mean, even inside the NBA, when Kenny left that, that set, I was like,
and Chris Webber's
shit, should I fucking leave my house? Like, I looked at the phone and go, God, should I leave my house? Should I just get out of here and, walk off the set? I mean, like, it was empowering. It was powerful. And I wish, instead of taking these powerful moments for granted, which it seems like Kenny Smith didn't take, the players did. But if everybody's committing Kenny Smith, we as a society should start taking those. We need to start taking this stuff seriously. And we need to take these powerful moments to heart and do something about it. And one of those things is to vote. And I know that's really weird to circle back around to voting and all that stuff, but it is. I mean, everybody should vote. It does. If you're 18 and you hate something going on, like if you hate Trump, if you hate Biden, if you hate Kanye West, if you hate whoever you hate, vote for the other person, because a zero vote, an absent, you not voting means you're voting for possibly whoever wins, and you may hate that person that wins, right? So at least you can say that even if you lost, your candidate lost, at least you voted and you tried, right? I mean, I don't know. It's to circle back around to what really matters is that there is an imbalance in this country that has not gone away. Let's be honest. The imbalance in our country, no matter what has happened, it's changed, but it's always there. And it needs to change. It's got to change. You see videos, and I always try to double check and research legitimacy of some videos that air on Twitter. But there's tons of videos of just the imbalance and the injustice shown nationwide. And it has to be corrected. I mean, we're just at a point where it has to be corrected. And I hope, if you would have told me last year that the NBA is going to forfeit some games and it's going to change everything, last year I'd have been like, yeah, we'll see. I'm seeing it right now. I believe that there is change on the horizon, and I hope
maybe they'll listen this time.
Yeah. I hope it starts reaching people.
It has to, because I don't want.
Oh my God, I'm just so sick of the people just ignoring it.
Yep.
Say that again, Ryan. You got cut off.
I said I agree, because I don't want my daughters growing up in this kind of world. I want them to be friends with whoever they want to be friends with. I want them to be able to hang around whoever they want to be hang around with, and not have to worry about judgment, not have to worry about what other people see, and just judge that person by the content of their character.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sounds awful close to something else, but that's really how I feel. And I hate that's going on. But
and I can't say it better than you guys have said it, but to echo what Zach has said, you got to vote. No voting is a vote for apathy, and we have to do better than what we've been doing. So go out, go vote. And just to echo what everyone else has said, we can all do better.
There's never going to be a perfect political candidate,
right,
no matter whatever party you believe in. Good luck.
Fuck the party system, for God's sake.
Yeah, I am totally out on the party system. I hate it. I think it's stupid.
Next week's pod will be on the two-party system. And
so,
I mean, sorry to be all preachy on our podcast here, but I also, like I said, the players recognize the platform they have. I mean, it'd be foolish of us not to recognize the platform that we somewhat have. I mean, it's nothing compared to what they have, but we have a little bit of a platform.
No,
if we're silent about it, then we're compliant, and I don't want to be compliant. So,
yeah, and that's why I asked you to take a minute or two and go and talk about this. But
a minute or 10 is what you said.
Well, that feels like it. But that's okay. And just to kind of bring this back into fantasy, thank y'all for listening to the Flex tonight. Didn't get to do that enough tonight, so I'll do it one more time. And in closing, that is going to do it for us. Remember to be sure to check out all our other podcasts and articles that Broadway Sports has to offer at BroadwaySportsMedia.com. Follow us on Twitter at BroadwayTN and the show at Flex on Broadway. Follow Zach at F Words Pod, JG at Titans Film Room, and Greenlaw at Rob on Broadway. It's 3 weeks in a row, baby. Seltzer your way on over to Facebook and Instagram and follow Broadway there. Do us a favor, register to vote. And after you've registered to vote, make sure you subscribe and rate 5 stars 2 times in a row. Help us out. It'll all make sense, I promise. But until next time, see ya.
drink a Bud Light.
Drink a Bud Light.
A Broadway Sports Media production.